Okay, today we're going to be looking at something called vowel units. Now, a unit is a part or a piece of something. So, a vowel unit is a part of a word, and as the name tells us, that part also has a vowel attached to it. And so, today we're going to be looking at the vowel unit NG. And I put that dash there because you're also going to be seeing a vowel attached to it. And there are a couple of vowel units that have the NG ending to it. Now, sometimes vowel units are called welded or glued sounds because these sounds are so tightly stuck together that they make a new sound. And you're going to notice this. The vowel sound is going to be just a little bit different. It's not exactly a short vowel sound, and it's not exactly a long vowel sound either. It's kind of a little bit of both. You'll see what I mean when we look at them more closely. We learn vowel units because it makes it so much easier to read and spell these words. When we can see or hear a vowel unit, it's going to be a lot easier to break it down or to make it easier to read and write. So, before we start, I want to make sure that if you have some time, go to YouTube and type in Nessie Reading Strategy right here, Gang of Three, and that will actually give you a really nice short video on some of the vowel units. So you definitely want to check that out if you have some time. So let's take a quick look at some of these vowel units with NG. The first one is going to be I, N, G. And you can see this, and it's going to sound like ing. Try saying that, ing. Now notice, the I doesn't sound like I or I. It has a little different sound, ing. And that's why we want to keep this vowel unit together. So, what kinds of words do we see this in? Well, we see it in king. We see it in sing. And you can pause the video right here and try to think of some other words that have the ing vowel unit. Maybe you came up with this word, wing. There are all sorts of words that can have this. You can have sting, like a bee sting. And those are just a few. Let's take a look at another one. A, N, G. How does it sound? Ang. That vowel takes a slightly different sound. So we see that vowel unit in the word rang. We see it in fang, like a wolf's fang. Take a moment to think of some other words that might have the ang vowel unit. Maybe you came up with this word, sang. Here's another one, O-N-G. Now when you say this, it sounds like ong, and you can hear that vowel sounding just different. It's not an ah, that's not that short O sound, and it's not an O, the long O sound. It has an ong sound, and you can hear that. That's why you want to glue or weld those sounds together. And we'll call them vowel units. So where do we see this? Well, we see it in the word song. We see it in the word long. Take a moment to think of a word that you know that might have the ong. You may have come up with the word strong, S-T-R-O-N-G. Or maybe even wrong. I'll write it over here. W-R-O-N-G. That's a little bit tricky because of that W, you really don't hear it there. It's almost a red word. And let's look at the last vowel unit that has the NG, and it's U-N-G. And that sounds like ung. You can see this vowel unit in the word sung. You can see it in the word lung. Take a moment to think of a word that might have this. Vowel unit. Stung. Like I got stung by a bee. You could see it in the word rung. Like the bell was rung. And those are just some examples of vowel units that have that NG ending.